is sworn and attested to, like I said, on the 3rd of December 2014, and the Commissioner of Oaths is B.G. Jones. Now, what I was putting to you, and you've also correctly said that your observation is that, and the physical evidence points you to 2 bullets inside the kitchen, and then you didn't see anything that indicates that there was a 3rd bullet fired in that vicinity of the kitchen, correct?
That's correct.
Kuyiqiniso ngishilo-ke ukuthi mina-ke ubufakazi babukhona-ke ngabona lapho ukuthi-ke kwadutshulwa-ke amahlandla amabili akukho-ke okwakuyinkomba kusho ukuthi-ke sasikhona-ke lakukhona ihlandla lesithathu.
Now, according to the statement that I've just read of Captain Bentley, a 3rd shot was allegedly fired, so we are not sure whether, according to this statement, whether it was inside the house or outside the house, because it says 1 shot was fired as the suspects were fleeing, right?
That's correct.
Yebo kuyiqiniso ngokwestatement lesi siyasho-ke noma uyasho-ke uBentley ukuthi-ke siphindile saxhuma futhi-ke Isibhamu ngenkathi-ke laba abangena-ke endlini sebebaleka-ke asinasiqiniseko noma lokho kwenzeka endlini noma-ke ngaphandle.
And these statements seem to agree with the evidence that was led by Ms. Zandile Khumalo in this court, who said when they were in the kitchen, as the altercation is going on, or the struggle is going on between the intruders and the people that were in the house, a first shot went off, hit the tile floor, and then one of the shrapnel or a piece of fragment hit her ankle. And she then ran to the bathroom where she went to hide herself. Whilst in the bathroom, she heard a second shot, which was louder as like the first one, and then later on, or immediately, I don't know the sequence, she then heard a 3rd shot, which was a bit duller in sound. So she heard 3 shots, and Bentley also talks about 3 shots, but we don't know where the 3rd shot was fired.
That's correct, Malo. That's what this statement is saying.
Okay, thank you.
Lana-ke manje lokhu esikufundile-ke noma engikufundile-ke lana kuyahambisana-ke nalokhu okushiwo uyena-ke noma okwashiwo uyena uZandile Khumalo nkathi ethuka ubufakazi-ke bakhe la enkantolo ukuthi-ke saxhuma-ke okokuqala Isibhamu ila esashaya phansi-ke waseyashaya-ke naye waseyabaleka-ke eyakhona-ke ebathroom saphinda-ke futhi saxhuma-ke ihlandla lesibili la ethi khona-ke saxhuma-ke ngaphezu kwalela loqala-ke washo-ke futhi ukuthi siqhumile futhi-ke okwesithathu-ke manje esithi-ke sesingasabanga umsindo njengalawo mahlandla amabili-ke uthi yebo yiloko kushiwo isona-ke lesi statement.
And Malo, this statement is clear on this paragraph, where it says it is alleged that 2 shots were fired inside the kitchen, and the other one as the suspects were fleeing. So inside the house, it's clear, it says 2 shots were fired inside the house.
Futhi-ke kucacile-ke lana ngokwendlela-ke ebhalwe ngayo kulesi statement ukuthi-ke bayasho-ke ukuthi-ke Isibhamu saqhuma amahlandla amabili ngaphakathi ekhishini esodwa-ke ngale nkathi sebebaleka.
Yes. Now, earlier on, I asked you if you personally had removed any piece of exhibit or projectile, cartridge casing, anything ballistically related, and you were adamant that you did not, correct?
That's correct, Malo.
Ngikubuzileke ngaphambilini ukuthi wena-ke kukhona yini owakususa noma owakuthatha-ke okufakazi waphendula-ke wathi cha yebo kuyiqiniso lokho.
My Lord, with leave of the court, I'd like to refer Lieutenant Mangena to another statement, which is A6 of Fosla Raskas 636 of 10/2014, which is the statement of A.B. Sifularo Montwedi. It was commissioned on the 24th of November 07 at 12, and the commissioning officer is Sibonelo Mkize, the Fosla Ras officer, detective sergeant. With leave of the court again, my Lord, let me do the exercise so that we don't waste the court's time by reading the contents of the statement. It reads at paragraph 1, I, ABC Fularo Montwedi State, I under oath in English. Paragraph 2, I am a warrant officer, service number that I'm not going to read on record, stationed at Provincial Investigation Unit, cell number I'm not going to place on record. Paragraph 3, on the 24th of 10/27 at 9, I visited the scene of crime, home number 13511, Fosloras, my Lord. The handwriting is the doctor's handwriting, so I'm going to struggle. 4, the incident of the shooting happened on the 24/10/26, but I visited the scene on the 24/10/27 at 9. When I arrived at the scene, was ballistic expert Captain Mangena of, and a photographer, Warrant Officer Mkhatlo, who took some photos. Captain Mangena took exhibit of spent cartridge that was found on the door frame. No one tampered with the scene whilst I was on the scene. Photos and exhibits were taken in my presence.
Sorry.
He says he took an exhibit.
Yeah, he says, let me read.
What is an exhibit?
He says, sorry, my lord.
At the door frame.
He says, let me read again, my lord. He says, Captain Mangena took exhibit of a spent cartridge that
door
was
frame.
on the door frame.
Yeah, okay.
And then he says, paragraph is the attestation. I know the contents, and like I said, it's properly commissioned as well. Do you know who this person is?
I don't know that.
Ingabe uyamazi yini lo muntu lona engifunda istatement sakhe sifulayo ucha ke angimazi lo muntu loyo ufunda ke lapha indawo nama kule statement ke uyasho ukuthi ke ucaptain kwaso captain ke Mangena ngaleso sikhathi wathatha ke igobolondo elisebenzile noma ke eselisetshenzisiwe khona lapho indawo lesigameko.
Yes, but you see, according to this evidence, I mean, sorry, it's not evidence. According to this statement, he says, you took a spent cartridge that was, Mangena took an exhibit of spent cartridge that was found on the door frame.
On which date, my lord?
The 27th of October. He says, I visited the scene on the 27th of November at 9 a.m.
November.
Sorry, the 27th of October, the following day, after the day when you were also
When I
at
was there, the scene.
Yes.
My lord, as I have mentioned, we don't collect exhibits from the crime scene.
But he took it from the door frame.
I don't know any exhibit like that.
Bese ngishilo ke ubufakazi bami ke ukuthi
In other words, as I understand it, sorry, as I understand it, that bullet didn't pierce. When I looked at the photos, it appears as if when you were giving evidence in the reconstruction, that it went askance, pierced the door frame.
That's correct.
Ricocheted because the energy was diminished and it was tumbling.
And actually, it did the door, not the door frame.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah,
but
but-
apparently it was there, like a pitch on a tree.
Yes.
Just
Yes. That's according to this
Yeah.
statement. So, you said you don't agree with this.
I don't agree with it
And-
because,
and-
my lord, I've mentioned it. When I go to a crime scene, LCRCs, the crime scene management, it's their mandate to collect all the exhibits from the crime scene.
Okay.
I don't collect exhibits. Why will I collect that one and leave the other exhibits if I
best-
collected those exhibits?
uma kuwukuthi ke lawo mazibiti lawo ngawathatha ke kungani ke ngizothatha nje lelo lodwa amanye ngiwashiye ke ngishilo ke kubufakazi bami ukuthi ke uma LCRC bekhona ke lapho yibona ke abantu ekuyibona abathatha amazibiti noma ubufakazi bahambe nabo mina ke akusona kwami ukuthi ngihambe nobufakazi.
Yeah, but what Montpellier says, he'll answer for himself that question. I'm not going to answer that. But he says this exhibit was taken in his presence, and he's a warrant officer at the Provincial Investigation Unit. Why would he make that allegation?
I don't know, and it's for the first time I hear that, my lord.
Angikwazi ke ukuthi kungani zokusho lokho futhi ngiyaqala ke ukuzwa.
Now, the projectiles that were found on the scene, that is the disintegrated one, the damaged one, and the one that was not completely damaged. You say they were FMJ bullets, I'm sorry, CMJ bullets, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Ngishilo ke ukuthi ke inhlamvu ke kanye nalena enye futhi ke kwakuseyinhlamvu manje singasapheleleke seyilimele kwakuwa CMJ.
Now, for me, CMJ, FMJ is gobbledygook. It's Chinese to me. Explain the differences and the makings, the composition of each of those bullets. What is FMJ? How is it composed? How is it its firing power? I'm not sure what those mean.
My lord, when you look at the FMJ, it's a full metal jacket. These bullets are normally what the police are using on their firearms. They are using full metal jacket manufactured by PMP. It's a lead covered by a strong copper, but it's open at the back. And if you look at the CMJ is a soft lead covered by a very thin layer of copper, and it's completely covered.
Uma sikhuluma ngayo ke FMJ yona ke yenziwa uPMP futhi ke la ngasemuva ke ivulekile ke futhi lezi isetshenziswa wona amaphoyisa ke amahlandla amaningi noma isetshenziswa amaphoyisa bese kuthi ke yona ke iCMJ yona ke uma uyiqhathanisa nayo ke iFMJ ithambile ke yona ke futhi ke yona ke ivaliwe njengoba iFMJ ivulekile la ngasemuva.
And basically the CMJ, it's a cheap bullet and it's very soft, it breaks easily. Compared to the FMJ. FMJ is a strong bullet.
Futhi ke yona ke iCMJ ibullet ke noma inhlamvu ke ongathi ke yona ke ishibhile noma ke ishib kakhulu ke futhi ke ithambile yona ke uma uyiqhathanisa nayo ke iFMJ.
And for the fragmented or the damaged one, I'm just asking it for my clarification in the back of my mind. How did you determine that that was also a CMJ?
I looked at the jacket of the copper jacket of it. It's a thin copper jacket of it, and it's more of a lead than.
Ukuthi ke ngithole ke nalena ke elimele inhlamvu ma isengasapheleleke ukuthi nayo iCMJ ngabheka ke lokabiza ngokuthi ufakazi ke i-copper jacket iyakhona.
Okay, now let's talk to, and I'm going to refer you now to this, to your exhibits. Let me refer you to exhibit X13B. That will be your second affidavit. I believe, just in summary, because I don't want to belabor the points that are not necessary for my cross-examination, but for record purposes, I must place them on record as well in my cross-examination. That one, if I'm correct, do you have it, Colonel Mangena? Exhibit S13B, your second affidavit, I believe is the one that deals with the Beretta that was a non-match. Is that the one?
Yeah, I have it, but it's page missing on that one. Let me check. Yeah, I have it here with me.
Do you have it? I believe you said the firearm concerned was a 9mm parabellum Beretta model FS. Those are the charts. Are your documents marked as per in alliance with the markings here in court, Captain, or is that your file? Because if you are looking at your file and it's not marked, it's going to confuse you. It's the second affidavit. I think it was deposed. Yeah, that's good. Let me see 5. Sorry, my lord. I think he's missing a page. Sorry. Yeah, do my assistance. Have we found
paragraph 3?
It's on paragraph 3.
Okay.
That's the one that refers to them. I don't want us to go verbatim with the contents. They are already on record. I just want to sum up and move on to another aspect. Is that the one that deals with the Beretta, the one that Mr. Mgomezulu was cross-examining you about, that it belonged to Mr. Twala? Is that the one?
No, it's not this one.
It's not this one. It's a 5-page affidavit, Colonel Mangena. And you are correct. It starts on paragraph 3, where you say, on the 13th of November, during the performance of my official duties, I received 2 sealed evidence bags, and you mentioned the bag numbers from the ballistic administration system, and then 3.1 is one 9mm parabellum P Beretta model 92 FS. It says paragraph 3 thereof at page 3 of 5.
13th November.
On the 13th of November, yes.
Yes, I have this one.
Yes, thank you. Now, you've testified that you were given this firearm to compare or for elimination purposes, correct?
That's correct.
Ngishilo ukuthi lesibhamu lesi-ke esinami bithi angasinikwa ukuthi ngisibhekeke uma kuwukuthi ngathola ukuthi-ke akukho okuhlanganisayo ngisikhipheke.
And then your findings was that that firearm did not fire our, and when I say our, I mean the exhibit bullet in this case, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Yebo ngishilo ukuthi ngathola ukuthi lesi sibhamu akuyisona-ke esadubula-ke le nhlamvu eyatholakala-ke le ekukhulunywa ngayo kulona leli cala.
And when you make a finding of elimination, do you also have to have that peer reviewed by somebody else, one of your colleagues or from outside who's in ballistics, to confirm or differ with your findings? Was it peer reviewed, that finding?
That's correct, my lord.
Kuyiqiniso-ke ukuthi uma sengifikela kuleso sinqumo-ke noma sengithola ukuthi akusona lesi ukhona-ke omunye engisebenza naye noma uzakwethu naye-ke ozobheka lokho engikutholile-ke abe eseyaqinisekisa noma uyaqinisekisa noma uyaphikisa-ke.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not going to belabor on that firearm because it was a non-match. Now, your further testimony is that you are then called by Colonel Indida. For the purpose of this cross, I'll say Colonel Indida because he was still a colonel back then, to do certain, first he calls you and says, can you perhaps determine by measuring the height of certain persons of suspect, of interest for me to determine whether or not they could possibly be the shooter in this First Lawrence 63610 of 2014 case, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Kubufakazi bami-ke ukuthi yebo ngase ngishayela ucingo uyena uKenneth wayo-Kenneth-ke ngalesi sikhathi uginindi ukuthi-ke ngizobheka-ke noma ngitala abantu abathile ubheka-ke ukuthi ngaba yibona yini abadubula.
Colonel, for me, what is intriguing is this. other cases, and you've done thousands of cases. I'm not going to doubt your expertise. I'm not here to do that. You've done thousands of examinations, bullets, firearms, tools, whatever. Do you normally do this exercise of measuring people's heights and whatever, unless in exceptional circumstances where some person was on a stump? So it makes sense that because he's wearing prosthesis, you can measure him to determine where he was shooting. But in ordinary cases, like this case, do you normally go and measure people at police stations, their heights and whatever things you need to do?
My lord, it depends on the investigating officer. What does he want to assist with? If he wants to assist with the height, we'll do that. Yes. And if the allegations that he's having needs something like a proof whether the height of this person can it be consistent. We have instances where maybe somebody sustained a gunshot wound, where you have to relate it with maybe a bullet hole or something. You have to get the measurements. We do that if the IO requests us to do that.
Siyakwenza ke lokho ukuthi ke uqaleke ubheke umuntu ke ukuthi ungakanani kubheke ukuthi ke uyena noma yibona yini abadubula kuya ngokuthi ke lowo ophenya icala ke yini ayifunayo ke noma ke mhlambi izinsolo anazo zithini ke ukubheka lokho uma kuukuthi ke yiloko aqalayo yebo siyakwenza.
If I understood, one of your answers from the cross-examination of Mr. Mngomezulu yesterday was, when he was asking you about the ownership of this firearm, the Beretta that I've just said, I touched on and I leave. When he was asking you about the ownership, your answer was that you don't deal with ownerships and the like. You only deal with ballistic evidence, right?
That's correct, madam.
Kuyiqiniso uma ngibuzwa uyena ke Mr. Mngomezulu izolo engibuza ke ngomnikazi kwalesi sibhamu ngishilo ngathi ke ukuthi umnikazi ubani lokho ke ngisebenzi ngakho kodwa mina ke ubufakazi ke ekufanele ngikuthole.
And similarly for me, my impression, and I'm saying my impression, was that you as a ballistic expert, you are insulated from the nitty-gritties of the case and the investigation so that you can remain partial in doing your examinations. In other words, you are insulated from the day-to-day other investigation of the case. All that you need to do is either ballistic evidence is brought and allocated to you at FSL, and then you do the examination, but the rest of you personally meeting with accused persons, trying to decipher whether or not they had shrapnel or fragment injuries or damages, defects from 2014. Is that something that you can do?
Well, we do that a lot. We have cases where a person has been shot and he sustained a gunshot wound, and they ask us, can we determine if that was a gunshot wound or was the height maybe, so that we can place the person on the crime scene. We do that on regular basis if the IO requests us to do that.
Kulokho ke bekubuza kona ke Mr. Mngomezulu nami ke bengicabanga kanjalo ukuthi wena ke uphenyo ke olwenziwayo mayelana necala awubikhona ke kodwa nje usebenza ngobufakazi mayelana nezibhamu kanye nazo ke nazo inhlamvu hayi ukuthi ke kufanele uyobheka ukuthi abasola noma abamangalelwa banga uma ubaqala bangakanani uthi lokho siyakwenza ke amalanga namalanga abakhona ke amaqala la khona ke umuntu udutshuliwe kufanele siyobheka ukuthi ngempela isibhamu yini leso adutshuka isona lapho ukuthi ke siyakwenza lokho.
And the other aspect, and then I'm not going to belabor that as well, it was touched on to some length by Mr. Mngomezulu, is this one. You are a senior ballistic expert at FSL, and yet the IO sends you to say, go and fetch a particular suspect firearm from me at Cleveland. Whereas we've been told here in court by Mohani Mohola that whenever the captain wanted delegation, he'll delegate them. Why would Indida send a senior officer of your caliber to a police station to go and pick up a firearm?
My lord, Brigadier Nkandla did not send me to go and collect the firearm.
Yes. What did he do?
I initiated only because I saw what I was looking at, that I need a firearm to shoot an additional test. I called him, I said, can I get that firearm? He said, no, the firearm was booked back at the CPT. He said, no, I'll go look for it because I know what type of firearm it is. I know where to look for it. The firearm at first did not have the serial number. So if I go to the station to look for it, I know where to look for it to confirm that this is the right firearm. That's why I decided to go and fetch it.
Akusiyena uGinenda umuntu wangithuma ukuthi angiye eCleveland ngiyolanda isibhamu leso yimina into eyaphuma kumina ke ukuthi angihambe ngiye lapho ngoba ke ngangibheka noma ngingathola ke lokho ngangibheka ngase mina ke ngimshayela ucingo ukuthi uGinenda ukuthi ngiyasifuna ke leso sibhamu ukuthi ngisivivinyeke noma ngisibheke kufanele ngisebenzise noma ngidubule ngaso wasengitshela yena ke ukuthi ke isibhamu sise eCleveland yimina ke umuntu owayihambela ke ngazi ukuthi isibhamu leso asinayo iserial number ngiyazi ke ukuthi ngizosithola kuphi nendawo kwaba yimini ke kwaba into ephuma kumina.
And my lord, if the firearm was with the owner, I said it yesterday, if the firearm was with the owner or was with the company, I wouldn't even go and fetch it. I would tell him that I would request that firearm to shoot additional tests. So it was for him to go and fetch it if it was with the firearm, with the owner or the company. But because it's in police custody, I can sign for it out of the 13, shoot the test, and then take it back.
Ngikushilo-ke lokhu futhi nayizolo-ke ukuthi uma kuwukuthi Isibhamu sasikubunikazi noma-ke kwinkampani ngangizoxhumana naye-ke ngimtshele-ke ukuthi Isibhamu leso ngiyasidinga-ke ngifuna-ke ukuthi ngidubule ngaso kodwa ngoba-ke Isibhamu sasise-police station ngayihambela ngayo i-police station ngiyasayinela kwi-SAP 13 ngiyasitesta futhi ngiyaphinde ngiyasibuyisela-ke.
Now, like I said, I'm not going to belabor that point. I was just passing this point that you personally attend to a police station to pick up an exhibit, but let's not belabor that. Your further evidence is that now Captain Indida also gave you a case number 96-2 of 2015, and with that you went onto your system and then you found that it had a lab number related to it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yebo kuyiqiniso-ke ukuthi-ke kunale case number anginika yona-ke ewu-962 ka-2015 ngase mina uma ngibheka-ke ngathola ukuthi ine-lab number.
And the lab number that was attached to that case, if I'm correct, is LAB 34369 of 15. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Uma yebo-ke leyo lab number-ke kwaku-34369 15.
And your further testimony is that the said lab number 34369 of 2015 was received by warrant officer Rulofse, who examined the exhibit Firearm, exhibit 4 in this case, right?
That's correct, my lord.
Ubufakazi bami-ke ukuthi-ke leyo lab number leyo yathola-ke noma kwakuyena u-warrant officer Rulofse okwakuyena-ke owavivinya-ke noma-ke leso Isibhamu edubula ngaso.
And Rulofse conducted the examination, which are the test fires, right, which is 369 TC1 and 2 and 369 TB1 and 2.
That's correct, my lord.
Ubona-ke u-361 T6 1 and 2 no 3 TCR
369.
369 TB2 no TB1, yes.
And just for clarification, for those that are confused by the TB and TC, the TC stands for test cartridge 1 and test cartridge 2, right?
That's correct, my lord. When we shoot a test for comparison, or
Yes.
what we'll do is on your cartridge case, the cartridge cases, you mark them with the last 3 digits of the lab number.
Yes.
And then TC1 is test cartridge 1 or test cartridge 2. And on the bullet, it will be the last 3 digits of the lab number, and then it's TB1 or TB2.
Lana-ke u-TC lana-ke ukhuluma khona-ke ngegobolondo amanamba elab awugcina-ke amathathu bese sithi-ke u-TC1 uma sikhuluma ngayo-ke inhlamvu u-TB i-test bullet namanamba awugcina-ke amathathu ayo-ke i-lab number.
And your testimony is that you then examined one firearm, which is the exhibit Firearm, and the test bullets and cartridges by Rulofse, and compared them whether they imparted markings, right? You compared Rulofse's tests. By now you have received the Firearm in this case, so you compared those to the exhibit Firearm, Rulofse's examination.
I compare the test.
The test fires of Rulofse,
Yes.
to determine whether or not they were fired from the same firearm.
Rulofse's test.
Yes.
Yes, I did that, my lord.
Engakwenza-ke ukubheka-ke lokhu ama-test-ke enziwa uyena-ke uRulofse ubheka-ke ukuthi-ke adutshulwa noma aphuma yini kwisibhamu esisodwa.
And then if I understood you well, you said that upon examination, you determined that the class characteristics were discernible, but the individual striations were not that discernible because of the nature of the bullets that were used in Rulofse's test fires. That is, Rulofse fired FMJs, correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Futhi ngashilo-ke ukuthi ngenxa yokuthi-ke uRulofse yena-ke manje-ke kwakukhona-ke la ekukhona-ke ngoba-ke uRulofse yena-ke wayesebenzise le iy'nhlamvu lezi ze-FMJ.
Then you then yourself commenced with your own examination now of the test firearms, the exhibit Firearm, and then you conduct, firstly, a testing with FMJs so that you can see whether the replication and reproducibility of the marks on FMJs fired by Rulofse were there. Did you fire FMJ bullets yourself?
Yes, I did fire the FMJ bullet.
Okay.
Yebo nami-ke ngasebenzisa wona nami-ke ngathesta-ke noma ngisebenzisa wona-ke ama-bullets la noma iy'nhlamvu lezi ze-FMJ.
And if I understood your evidence further, is that because FMJs are a hardcore bullet, you decided to fire bullets similar to those that were fired at the scene, i.e. CMJs, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Ngishilo-ke ukuthi-ke ngase ngithi-ke ngoba-ke ama-FMJ wona-ke ahlukile-ke kona ama-CMJ ngase ngithi angisebenzise-ke iy'nhlamvu lezi-ke ey'fanayo nalezi ezasetshenziswa-ke kwindawo yesigameko ama-CMJ.
Now, how many FMJs did you test fire yourself?
To
During all your
Rulofse.
testing?
My lord, I fired 8 rounds,
Yes.
eight tests.
Yes.
And of 8 tests, I think 2 tests were the FMJ, and then the other 6 were the CMJs.
Ama-test engawenza-ke aba-8. Amabili kuwona-ke kwama-test e-FMJ, awu-6-ke angawe-CMJ.
And now I'm talking about the rule of FMJs that you fire. And correct me if I'm wrong as well. The class characteristics on the FMJs are discernible. On the bullet, forget about casings because we're not talking about casings in this case. The discernible class characteristics are there, correct?
That's correct.
Lana uma sesikhuluma noma-ke ama-casings lana siwakhohlwa-ke, kodwa-ke nama lokho okufunayo-ke, lokho kubizwa ngokuthi-ke ama-characteristics, kona kukhona.
And did you observe some of the also similar striations on the FMJs, the rule of ones?
That's correct, my lord.
Nokuthi-ke ngabona-ke lokhu okubizwa ngokuthi-ke ama-striations afanayo-ke kule noma kula ama-test yakhe urolose.
Now, having seen the similar or discernible class characteristics and some individual characteristics, what were your findings?
My findings were that, my lord, I'm convinced it's the same firearm that Gulov has tested.
Lokho-ke kwase kungiholele ekuthini-ke manje ngitholeke ukuthi lesi isona-ke isibhamu lesi esathestwa uyena urolose.
Now, let's come to your actual tests now. We've done rule of FMJs, the 2, your 2 FMJs. Let's come to the 6 CMJs, right? Now, you label your test TC1, 369, TC3 to 369, TC10, correct?
That's correct.
The numbers TC1.
In fact, let's use TC1, TC3 to TC10, because if we continue to say 369 T1, it traps the language. So TC3 to TC10.
Wona-ke ama-test lawo engawasebenzisa-ke ukusuka-ke nabo TC3 kuyofika-ke TC10.
Sorry, are they referred to like that
It's so sorry, my lord.
in your evidence, in your affidavit?
In my affidavit, my lord, is
369
TC3 to 369 TC10.
Okay. But is the court comfortable that we cut off the 369 because it trips the tongue, or should we, for record purposes, put the 369 as well?
No, fine, as long as he agrees that it's the same.
Okay. And then your bullets are marked 369 TB3 to TB10, correct?
That's correct.
Bese amawuka-ke u-TB 1 to 369 ukusuka-ke ku-1 kuyofika-ke ku-10.
And you said those CMJs that you find, the 6 ones, are of different manufacture or are marketed for different companies. You mentioned one of the companies as PNP. What were the other companies that you testified the CMJs for?
The CMJ is not PMP. It was NGA, and the others were from Cellular and Bello.
Okay.
Cellular and Bello and NGA.
Oh, okay.
NGA yila ngithi-ke ilaba benza-ke bona ama-CMJ. U-CMJ angishongo ukuthi-ke bona benziwa u-PMP.
So let me clear it because I misunderstand this. So if I misspeak, you must correct me. So the PNPs are FMJs.
That's correct.
Okay.
Ama-FMJ wona-ke enziwa u-PMP.
Now, there's this what you used, and we've spoken about it earlier on. You examine, compare, and come to a finding. And when you come to a finding, you'll say it's a match, right?
That's correct, my lord.
Lana-ke manje uma sewuqhathanisa-ke ekugcineni usuyathola ukuthi yebo kuyahlangana.
Now, before we go further with to the charts and everything, there is in your industry what is referred to as a known match, and also what is referred to as a known non-match. A known match, known non-match. What are those for clarification?
When you speak of known match, my lord, we're speaking of an ID that you can see where you know that you should the test, you compare your own test, and with the test that you compare, you can get an ID, you know that these firearms, these exhibits were fired in the same firearm. And it's a known match because we are the one who fired the test. And in
sorry. Uma-ke sesikhuluma ngayo-ke i-known match lona noma-ke eyenzayo ukuthi yila uqhathanisa khona-ke kule test eyenziwe-ke nawe futhi oyenzayo-ke ubone-ke ukuthi cha lana isibhamu esisodwa esisetshenzisiwe-ke lana uyakwazi lokho ngoba uwena umuntu okwenzile lokho.
My lord, I think we should pack or finish up the known non-match, then we can pack it.
In the known non-matches, where you compare bullets that you know that they were fired in 2 different firearms, or it can be firearms which are manufactured one after the other. There are similarities, but you know from those that, because you know the test were fired by you, or you know who fired the test, and you know that they were fired in 2 different firearms. It's a known non-match.
Kokunye noma lokho kwesibili-ke ila wazi khona-ke ukuthi manje sikhuluma ngey'bhamu ey'mbili ezahlukile noma-ke akusona isibhamu esisodwa esadlulelana kodwa iy'bhamu ey'mbili ey'hlukile.
So in a known non-match, we know that those firearms, for example, the example that you're giving, They are not supposed to match. The bullets are not supposed to match fired from two different firearms.
Well, there can be similarities, but there will always be differences. You can see the similarities because they were manufactured probably one after the other. They're produced by the same tool. So the markings from that same tool will be, somewhere will be the same. But in the process of manufacturing that, because of wear and tear of the tools that they're using, will create another marks which will be unique to a specific one, but not to the same one.
Lana ke esikhuluma ngako ukuthi ke asithi ibhamu ezenziwe ke kodwa ke ngokulandelelana ke kodwa uma sekuthola ke noma ke ukuthi ngemiphumela ke ubone ukuthi kukhona ke okuhlukile lana ngokwalesi isibhamu kunesinye.
My lord, I see it's 103. Is that
103?
Yes, my
What
lord.
time do you come back?
At 2 o'clock, my lord.
Okay. Mr. Ramosepele, I heard you say you don't know what FMC meant.
FMJ, full metal jacket. I don't know. I don't know the composition of those or the makings.
Now I was going to ask you a trivial question.
Yes.
You have never heard of the movie Full Metal
Full
Jacket
metal jacket. Yes, I have.
by Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes, I've seen.
Oh, I see.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Sure.